Hello and welcome back to South by Southwest. I'm your host, Wajahat Ali, and this is the South by Southwest studio. Our next guest credits South by Southwest for changing his life when he won the prestigious pitch competition back in 2018. Since then, his company called Icon has created a community of 3D printed homes right here in Austin. That's right, you heard me, 3D printed homes. Please welcome Jason Ballard to the studio. Jason.
Happy to be here.
You are the South by Southwest story, my friend. 2018, you came here with a pitch, and now you're here with a $500 million valued company?
We've raised a little over $500 million. We're not disclosing the valuation, but we're doing all right.
You're doing all right, so you're doing better. Okay, that's good.
We're doing fine.
Not too bad. Real quick, first and foremost, I need to know the origin story. So you come here in 2018, and you're like, I got this idea. What was the idea?
Yeah, so the idea was to use robotic construction, in our case, construction scale 3D printing, to deliver homes faster, more affordably, without having to surrender beauty, quality, dignity, sustainability, other things that we often have to pick and choose between when we're trying to attack speed and affordability in housing. It's a very cross-functional, cross-disciplinary kind of problem. You need robotics, software, material science, architecture, and design.
And aesthetics, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so like all these things kind of have to come together. And for those reasons, and because we're a local Austin company, and then during South by, the whole world comes to Austin in a very cross-functional, cross-disciplinary way, right? South by Southwest, to my knowledge, is the only time that artists and makers and creators and builders and entrepreneurs and politicians and people from all walks and stripes of life who are interested in learning, innovating, solving problems, they sort of all descend on this town, and it was like, this is the time to unveil what we're doing to the world.
Can you say that again, looking at the camera, and then you'll get a check from South by Southwest? No.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's not another conference like it, right? And it made a ton of sense because we were here locally and because of what happens during South by for us to attempt to unveil the world's first permitted 3D printed house at South by. And that's, in fact, what we did that year.
And that pitch competition, just so people know, it is an extremely prestigious, competitive pitch competition, right? It's not just like, oh, hey, everybody, I got this idea. Like, you're going up against people who are like, no, this is my moment to shine. I'm going to get the investors, and I'm going to launch myself. So you went up there and you pitched this idea. 3D printed homes, affordable, sustainable, modern, and sleek. It's not just Minecraft blocks. No disrespect to Minecraft.
No disrespect.
My son watching. No disrespect to Minecraft, but curvature and aesthetics and beauty. And you made the pitch. And what do you think it was about your particular pitch for 3D homes that wowed the judges?
Well, I remember during the pitch, the big moment was during the pitch unveiled the house. To
the actual house that's up.
Yes, it's like a picture came out, it was like, and that right there is the world's first permitted 3D printed house, and it's a half a mile from this stage, and you're seeing it for the first time. And so the sort of, the realness of like, holy crap, he doesn't have the idea of 3D printing houses, they have 3D printed a house here in Austin, it's here.
Yeah.
And that sort of seemed to stun people. And so that was really the thing. It was the 1-2 punch of unveiling the house at the time of the pitch contest that seemed to put us over the top.
All right, so you're there, 2018, you win. Huge competition. You have this idea, you have the house, you've actually made it. Did you have the company at the time?
I mean, we had a company, there's 2 other co-founders besides myself, and so the 3 of us were working together. We had no employees, we were completely self-funded at that moment.
Best way to do it.
And the joke was, we had a plan B, C, and D in case the print didn't work. Like if it's only halfway printed, how can we show that it's in progress?
We'll give you a kitchen. You don't need a living room.
And so we had all these plans for what to do if it didn't quite work out. We had failed to fully prepare for like viral success. We had actually, I think, underappreciated. That
was not plan E.
No, we had failed to fully appreciate the true power of South by Southwest. And so immediately, employees who wanted to work for Icon, hundreds of thousands of requests for homes, investors all sort of descended on the home, and it made it very easy, very quickly because of South by, to raise our seed round of funding, to hire an initial team of folks, and build a pipeline of customers so that we could continue to do this work that we do today. I mean, truly, like, none of the major elements of our startup happen without South by.
And you know, again, I want to just remind people this was 2018. So you're still in the whirlwind, right? And that company that was an idea with you and your buddies now has a valuation of it's doing okay, maybe
right.
somewhere above half a billion, right? It's doing okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I've heard rumors. But to close the loop full circle, you're here now in 2022, and you actually have, at least today, anyone who's at South by, can they still tour a 3D printed home on display right here on South by Southwest?
Yep, and so this year we unveiled a home called House Zero. Over in East Austin, actually very close to where the original house was, on Chacon Street. And if you go to our website, iconbuild.com, you can see all badge holders or folks in town for South by. We're hosting official tours for South by yesterday, which is already passed, and then today, badge holders could go over there and get to tour the newest 3D printed house that we've unveiled. And what makes House Zero important is it's the first house whose architecture was specifically designed for robotic construction, right? So you mentioned earlier the curves and the slopes and the organic forms. Those have all been sort of turned up to 11 on this house.
All right.
We worked with a world-class architecture firm, Lake Flato. And I think this is the moment when you realize that 3D printing is not just a neat novelty, but like, I hope when people see the house, it fills them with like a profound amount of hope, because it's like housing and questions about housing and affordable housing
Right.
are often depressing conversations. And I think
Always depressing conversations.
Yes. I think when you see this house, you're going to go, if these are the tools that we have to work on the problem, then all of a sudden we have every reason to be hopeful and optimistic about solving the challenges related to the global
I want to
housing
nerd out about the tools.
Yeah.
Okay? So when excuse me, when it comes to 3D printing, the conversation I usually had were 3D printed guns, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is of course how we use technology, but these are
Yep.
homes.
Yep.
And talk to us about, like, when I think of a printer, and I think most people watching, like, printer in your home prints out paper.
Yep.
Explain to me how this process works. What does this printer look like?
Yep.
How big is it? How
Yep.
do you make a house out of it?
Yep.
Take me through the steps.
Yeah, well, so the first thing to say is people often ask, like, do you print the pieces somewhere and then bring the house and assemble it? The first thing to be clear about is it's actually the printer that comes to the site, to the job site. And we print the house where it will stand. That
Printer comes to the
printer
location.
comes, it's almost like the factory comes to you.
Got it.
3D printer at that scale is like a bespoke housing factory. You bring the factory to the site and you print whatever house you want. Because we're working with digital architecture, truly maximum design freedom. If you want the house in the shape of a Fibonacci spiral, I could print you a house in the shape of Fibonacci spiral. If you want a very traditional looking
Minecraft box house.
rectilinear house, we can do that too. And so that's what happens. And so we take the digital architecture, it's converted into robotic instructions, the proprietary extrudable concrete that we've developed,
A special type of concrete.
a special type of concrete that's made to be deployed with 3D printing, because we need it to flow through the machine, but then when you print it, it needs to stop flowing, or you'd have a puddle instead of a house.
It can't be in amoebic form. It has to be
Correct.
solid.
And then it has to retain its shape with like great accuracy while you're piling hundreds of pounds of additional material on top to build up the house. And so getting it to flow and then set up and retain shape very quickly upon deposition was a challenging technical problem. But then layer by layer, the robot follows the instructions that are given to it by the architectural program. The material is made on demand in the secondary part of the printing system so that we can print in all kinds of weather conditions. We can print as cold as about 36, 38 degrees. We've printed as hot as 105. And so the printer can run basically 24 hours a day, even as the weather changes, and it builds up the house, and there you go.
Okay, so if I give you a design,
Yes.
and I say I want to make this house, this is just me being nerded, like Star Trek Enterprise house.
Yes.
I give you the design. You just say, okay, I can make it for you.
Yes.
I leave. When I come back, how many days after I come back that I can see the house?
So the House Zero is actually two houses. So we printed about a little over 2,000 square foot front house and a little over 300 square foot ADU. So approaching 2,500 square feet all together.
It's a solid
Big
space.
Very large space. A house that I think anybody would be quite happy to live in.
I will be happy. I will be happy to live in that
Those two houses were printed in 10 days at the same time.
Wow.
So, and especially when you see
So one printer.
one printer printed two houses at the same time in about 10 days. And if you look at the houses, you'll quickly realize, when you see, if you go to our website or see pictures of it, you would realize it would take weeks and weeks, if not months and months, to build a house like this.
So you pull it off in 10 days.
Correct.
With one printer.
Correct.
On site.
Correct.
And I want to, before I talk about the sustainability and affordability, the name of the printer. I think the reason why it's a Star Trek Enterprise, without even realizing, is what's the name of the printer?
The name of the printer is Vulcan.
Vulcan.
I love Trekkies.
I love the nerd cred. I love the nerd cred.
I'm a Lord of the Rings guy myself, and Star Wars in second place. But it actually wasn't a Star Trek reference. It's a volcano reference. So when we were first doing the things, we're like, what else spits out liquid rock that gets hard? It's like, oh, volcanoes. And so the printer's called the Vulcan.
That's even nerdier, my friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Done.
It's a geology reference. And then the material delivery system is called the magma, and then the concrete we call lavacrete.
You have to be consistent with the analogy.
And then our space printer, our off-world printer for the moon and Mars, is called Olympus, because Olympus is the largest volcano in the solar system.
And so, I'm learning about this. Is fascinating to me. And pardon me if this is a dumb question.
Yeah.
How many printers do you have right now? How many printers does Icon have?
Well, so for the past several years, we've only had at any given moment like 2 or 3. And so we had to have a very sophisticated sales prevention department, because those printers were and are booked up for the next several years.
Sales prevention.
Yeah, because that's
a good problem.
Yeah, it was a good problem, but it's good as an entrepreneur, but also sad as a human being.
Right.
Because often these requests are coming from the Caribbean, where they were having hurricanes and things. They're coming from wildfire areas in California. They're coming from homeless veterans. They're coming from Community First Village trying to shelter people experiencing chronic homelessness in Central Texas. Yeah. And so it's no fun saying no to those things. And so this past year, after we raised our Series B, we opened up our factory. And so the factory is coming online right now. I think we'll produce about a dozen construction systems this quarter, and then are going to keep making them so we can start saying yes to more and more opportunities.
Where's the factory?
In South Austin.
All right, so this is
we're
all local.
We are a proper local Austin company. Our batch plant for developing our materials, our material science lab, our robotics lab, our factory, everything based right here in Austin, Texas.
So with the story, the origin story, a part of it was that you used to work in a homeless shelter.
Correct.
And I was telling you right before, my family and I, we were homeless once. So you lose your home, you're desperate. You need a place to stay, so you either go to the shelter or you pray to God you have a friend or a family member who can tide you over. And that story, unfortunately, is becoming more common, with the pandemic, with the recession, with climate change. So how can 3D printing come in this moment and actually say, you know what, governments, you're trying your best, you're messing up. There is a housing crisis.
Correct.
Work with me.
Yeah.
I'm Icon, work with me.
Yeah.
I can give you an affordable solution.
Yeah, well, so there's layers to the problem, right? And so the one we're able to attack initially at our scale is just simply delivering the houses, each house, faster, more affordably, and with more resiliency, sustainability, and beauty than you could do it with a conventional method. To solve this broader problem of supply and pricing challenges and sort of the bar of home ownership going up, even though normalized wages aren't increasing nearly as fast, it's a supply problem.
And demand is there, my
friend.
Globally,
the demand is there,
homes.
but we are way behind on supply. I think right now we have a little over 5 million homes fewer than we should in America, and I think the problem gets worse every year to the tune of about 2 million homes because of population growth and the obsolescence of the existing housing stock. We simply don't have enough builders. People are often like, is your robot, are you displacing jobs? And it's like, if you know people standing around who know how to build houses without work, please send them to Texas. Right. That's not what's happening. We don't have enough people in the building trades, which is why we get worse, 2 million worse every year. And we are hoping that as we scale up these robotic systems, deploy them rapidly all over the place, eventually globally, that we can actually outrun the supply issue as well. So there's the unit economics issue, which we're attacking right now, but then there's this profound global supply issue that I think only robots could dig us out of the hole. I do not think there are enough human beings who know how to build houses, even working full time. We're too far behind.
Well, also with climate change, you mentioned the fires in California, you mentioned hurricanes. I mean, you could go across, just forget the world, you could just go across America right now. Devastation means that people who had the income no longer have homes. And they need shelter.
That's right.
And you mentioned the word resiliency. And why is a 3D printed house, the concrete that you've made, the special proprietary concrete that you've made, how is that more resilient than what we rely upon?
So concrete certainly is one of the most resilient building materials humanity has ever developed. We have concrete buildings in the Arctic, we have concrete buildings in tropical zones, we have concrete bridges standing in salt water for decades and decades. And it's what we're doing with Icon by appropriating concrete for housing is using a material that is resilient in its first principles. Wood is amazing in a number of regards.
You're not anti-wood?
I'm not anti-wood. It can be lovely aesthetically, has very good tensile strength and some other things, but it's not inherently very strong. It inherently wants to catch fire. It inherently wants to rot. It wants to be mold food, termite food, and it's a conductor of energy. So it's often very energy efficient. Inefficient. So you spend a lot of money and time insulating and working against the wood. With concrete, you're inherently strong. You're inherently water resistant, fire resistant. And the materials that concrete's made of are some of the most abundant materials in the entire crust of the earth.
The concrete business would like to thank you for the full-throated the support of concrete. But this is a special type of concrete that you said, and again, I want to get to the aesthetics because oftentimes when it comes to affordable housing, right? Poor people just live in that box. Be grateful. We gave you a Minecraft home. Just sit there. Oftentimes they're ugly. Oftentimes they're not aesthetically pleasing. Small, cramped together. And I do want to touch upon the aesthetic aspect of this. You're saying that this affordable housing, 3D printed homes, for communities, vulnerable communities, doesn't have to be a depressing eyesore.
That's correct, and nor does it have to be a low quality depressing eyesore, because often
also exactly
with conventional
just be grateful for this home.
With conventional building methods, in order to get prices at the level that you would need for social and affordable housing, you have to cut corners. You have to reduce the quality of labor. You have to reduce the quality of materials you're using, and you certainly can't hire. Something like north of 90% of buildings don't have an architect involved at all. So you sort of abandon any sense of design altogether.
And also safety. And I think that's why
all of this, that's right.
When you see these buildings collapse, oftentimes in low-income neighborhoods, it's like, no regulation.
And so that was, with Icon, our first principle was like, that I cannot live in that world. I cannot accept a situation where we have to choose between these things that are all fundamental values of our species. I refuse.
Some of our species. Hopefully more, but some of our species.
That's right. Well, I refuse to accept a world where you have to choose between having dignified housing or affordable housing.
Right.
I just reject that false dilemma outright. And it was like, we need to roll up our sleeves. We need to innovate. We need to be more creative. And we need to find ways to build that embody the highest values and ideals we have as a civilization. And that's why this whole company was started.
Well, you're talking about highest ideals, and you're talking about, this like the moonshot idea that succeeded.
Yes.
Speaking about the moon, tell us about Icon on the Moon.
Yeah, so the company, of course, was, I say, provoked into existence because of the global housing crisis. And we needed a paradigm change in the way that we build. And that paradigm change is to robotic and digital construction. But of course, when you change paradigms, like real paradigm changes, you don't just solve problems, you open up these profound opportunities as well. And one of the most profound opportunities of robotic construction is the possibility of building humanity's first homes on other worlds, like the moon and like Mars. I think this is incredibly exciting. I think it's romantic, and I think it advances the capabilities of the human species. And I think, in fact, it will be a spacefaring civilization that figures out how to solve homelessness, because that's the deep end of the technical pool. And so for me, these are like one mission to sort of advance the human condition. But it's cool. We have a project called Project Olympus, where we're developing an off-world printer first for the moon surface and then for Mars. And it's really going great. And we're very, very excited. We're presently scheduled to be in space in 2 years and on the surface of the moon in roughly 2026, if the schedule holds.
Well, 4 years, so you're going to have a 3D printed home in about...
It won't be home. The early prints will be demonstration prints to prove to NASA it actually all really works. And then I think that'll unlock the next round of development to begin building the proper moon base. See,
some people look at that and they go, oh, it's just pie in the sky stuff. But you see all these billionaires coming with ideas with Space Force and the rockets. And then I sit there and I go, yeah, if God forbid we have to leave Earth, they'll be fine. They'll create Elysium, which is like this, this beautiful space station for the ultra rich, and we'll see the inequality also in space. But with your company, you're like, no. Actually, we can have aesthetically pleasing, hopefully safe, sturdy homes off planet if necessary.
We are absolutely determined for as many human beings to benefit for these technological advancements as possible. I think you're probably right that early on in almost any technology, it's like the people who can afford to take financial risks, who can adopt them first. Airplanes were probably that way, cars were that way. But now think of all the good that has happened globally because of our advances in transport, because of our advances in computer technologies. I'm for sure we're millions and millions of dollars to have a computer at all once upon a time.
Oh, back in the day, 70s,
so this
80s, it was like a luxury.
Yep. So we've seen this movie now. Of course, it's expensive at first. Of course, only people who can afford to take those financial risks are the first movers. But the benefits routinely over and over again accrue to the whole planet. So.
I could talk to you for another 30 minutes, but I have 30 seconds.
Amazing.
There's a core here. There's a value that I keep seeing, right? Yeah, you got the fancy 3D printers. You're talking about the moon. You made a lot of money, but there's a value here that seems selfless for humanity. And did you get that from your parents? I mean, because it seems like that's what's driving you.
I absolutely got it from my family and from my faith, actually. I was almost a priest, and I was, when I decided not to be a priest, the Bishop of Texas, what we were talking about was housing and the problems associated with housing. And he goes, I want you to treat this like this is your life's work and do it with all your heart. And so I do feel like I'm on a mission, I'm on a vocation in service to humankind, and that's what makes the work means so much on a personal level.
So, this is going to be a strange thing, I'm going to say. I also believe in God. I went to all-boys Jesuit Catholic school. Our motto was men for others and service of others. I'm very happy you did not become a bishop. I'm glad. I'm glad God decided to use your talents in this way. So,
well, maybe there'll be an opening for like Bishop of Mars.
Maybe retire as a bishop on Mars if you must. But right now, keep printing the homes. It's a fantastic story. Congratulations. Look in the camera right now and tell people how they can come check out this home today at South by and how they can learn more about Icon.
Yep, you can go to our website, iconbuild.com, to see more about House Zero and to follow our journey and all the other projects that we're going to be getting underway here pretty quick.
I want to thank Jason for stopping by the studio this morning. Thank you so much. His session is called It's Time to Build. It takes place tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. at the Hilton Austin downtown in Salon H. And today, again, is the last day that South by Southwest badge holders, all badge holders, can go check out House Zero. And you can check out our daily schedule of interviews on our website at sxsw.com/studio. You can also watch all of our studio interviews on the South by Southwest TV app, available on Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, and Amazon Fire. And these interviews will also be available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/sxsw. I'm Wajat Ali, and we will be back a little later today from the South by Southwest studio.